I feel like I'm way too excited about this microphone. I mean, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have a microphone now. That's gonna be so much easier. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel Stories Between Us, where we analyze the psychology of the tragic movies and books we're going to be watching and reading. Today we're going to be talking about the character archetypes that might come up in tragic movies such as the dreamer, the rebel. So you may have heard me talk about these in my previous video, but today I'm going to be explaining them further in depth so that you can understand in the future. With that being said, let's get right into the video. So character archetypes are recurring types of characters that appear across stories and cultures and even time periods. They aren't necessarily specific people, but they're patterns and roles that characters tend to fill in stories, especially in the hero's journey. For example, if you think about most action stories, you have a hero, you have a mentor, and you have, obviously, the villain. These patterns appear again and again because they reflect a familiar human experience and they give these emotional roles the audience recognize almost immediately. For example, the chosen one, that would be Anakin, Luke, Harry Potter. The mentor would be Obi-Wan, it would be Gandalf, it would be Dumbledore. All these archetypes are immediately understandable and recognizable because of the patterns of the story and the patterns of the characters themselves. The concept of archetypes most often connects to the psychologist Carl Jung, who suggested that humans share what he called a collective unconscious. According to him, certain symbols and character types appear in myths, dreams, stories, and many other things because they come from psychological patterns that we share. Even long before him, however, these kinds of characters and roles appeared in ancient storytelling traditions, myths, plays, folk tales, and they still are used today because they provide that structure similar to how the hero's journey provides a structure. Having these archetypes can help us understand the characters themselves and help highlight the emotional dynamics between characters, who carries hope, who challenges fate, and who represents the cost of the story. By looking at these archetypes, we understand not only them, but also the roles they play within the story itself. You've heard me mention the hero's journey a couple times in this video. It's basically a storytelling framework that describes a common path many main characters follow. They leave their ordinary home, they face challenges and trials, often they might have a mentor or someone helping them, and then they change throughout the story because of these experiences, sometimes for the best, sometimes for and the idea was popularized by mythologist Joseph Campbell, I believe I said that right, who noticed that many myths and stories across cultures follow a similar pattern, as I just explained. And this is a structure that's often used by writers, storytellers, directors, just to shape a character's growth and to show their story more clearly and to make sure that we understand the point of the story. Because this is a popular structure that's used, a lot of the archetypes are also the same, and that's what we're going to be digging into right now. So the first archetype we have is the caretaker, and what happens is that they pour all their energy into protecting or saving someone else, even if it's at the cost of themselves, and they measure love through the sacrifice that they give. Normally, they'll feel safest when they're needed, and the guilt often views them, but it's not necessarily a obvious point of them being a caretaker. It's just one of the things that drives them to do this. In their mind, failing their loved one or failing their friend or whoever they're taking care of means failing to love. Oftentimes, their heartbreak comes from realizing that they can't save everyone or they can't save the one person that they want to save. And that kind of connects with us because they embody our wish to fix what hurts, and watching them learn that you can't fix everything, let's just imagine the same things within ourselves and helps us learn that we need to take care of ourselves too, because that's what the caretaker learns throughout their story. Next, we have the dreamer. So what happens is they live with an unshakable sense of hope and believing that life is good, that love, art, or miracles can happen and that they are worth living for, even when life tells them that they're not. Oftentimes, they're the emotional light in the dark story of tragedy, and their optimism softens the tragedy rather than denying it. Oftentimes, they'll be the ones to say that they're in a better place, or they'd want us to celebrate their life. They would be the ones that have this high hope and optimism, saying that we shouldn't be sad, we should celebrate their life. Oftentimes, we, the audience, know that their dreams will never come true, but that's why we root for them so fiercely, because we want to believe that it's possible because they do. The dreamer helps us see that beauty and hope can exist beside pain and not rather than against it. It's like they can walk alongside each other. It doesn't have to be pain equals no hope or hope equals nothing hurts. It can be both, and that's what the dreamer shows us. Next, we have the rebel. So they usually challenge the rules and defy illness, fate, or authority in the name of freedom or love. Sometimes they even convince the other characters or the character in the story to as well, their love interest, their friend, whatever it may be. Oftentimes, this rebellion and this fearlessness is born of fear and feeling powerless against what they're going through or dealing with. So they choose to defy the odds and control what they are able to. Their act of resistance oftentimes becomes their act of love. They may break the rules for someone to prove that they love them when they can't always do this, what the cliche version of it is, I guess. We oftentimes connect to these characters because we envy their courage and we feel like we live fully when time is short. The rebel gives us permission to want more out of life without feeling guilty for it, without feeling like we're doing something wrong. They allow us to want that. Next, we have the realist. So what happens is that they face the truth head on, even if it sucks or it's ugly. They're practical, they're grounded, and painfully aware of their limits. So very much opposite of dreamer. Most of the time, their honesty balances the dreamer's idealism and hope, or even the rebel's. Their way of protecting their hearts is predicting disappointment and seeing it coming and believing the worst, as opposed to letting themselves live their lives and be happy. Their growth throughout the story comes when they let themselves hope anyway, even if they have a feeling or know it's going to end bad. They let themselves live their lives to the fullest. We connect with them because we see our fears in the realist. The voice that says, don't do this, and don't get attached. It's watching them open them up feels like learning how to trust life again, and they teach us that it's also okay to be scared and still hope and still dream. And then we have the haunted. So usually with the haunted, they already had lost someone or something, and they carry that ghost throughout the rest of their story, and the love story is really the confrontation with a memory or a person that they lost. Oftentimes they're quiet, inward, or nostalgic. They are the ones that read the notes over and over, or they go on this adventure that they were meant to have with their romantic partner. After that person is gone, the grief becomes their lens of love. They do whatever they can, even if the person's not there, to prove that they love the person and that they're not going to forget them for themselves, because they're scared that they're going to forget the person they lost. They do everything they can to remember and keep them in their mind. We often feel safe in their sadness because it may mirror our own quiet griefs or hardships, and it shows that loving again or moving on is a form of survival and growth, not something to be ashamed of or guilty about. And then we have the anchor. So what happens is that they're a steady force in the storm. They're calm, loyal, and unshakable even when everything else falls apart. A little bit similar to the dreamer, but not quite. They're often quieter than the dreamer. They hold the party together or the friends together quietly, and they rarely seek the spotlight for what they're doing. Their love is practical, not grand, but it's very constant and it's noticeable if you look for it. They're usually the one that stays strong. They don't cry, they don't share their emotions, but when they break, it's like the world shifts and everyone realizes how much they've been carrying by themselves, and then they go to help. Oftentimes, the anchor doesn't really want to show emotion. They want to keep to themselves. That's why they're quieter. and they just want to kind of in a way take care of everyone else and make sure that they're the steady one that everyone else can look to. So it's also similar to the helper. We need the anchor to remind us that stability can be just as powerful as passion. They're proof that quiet love is love that stays, and that it can be even the most healing kind. Next, we have the lover. So what happens is that they are driven by deep emotional connection to others, and they prioritize love, intimacy, and devotion, and they place their relationships at the center of their decisions and life. They form intense bonds with the people they are close with or that they meet. Oftentimes, their motivation is to stay close or protect the person that they care about throughout the story, and to make sure that they are doing everything in their power to do so. They bring a warm feeling of vulnerability and emotional depth to the story, with how much they love and care for the other people that are in their lives and story. For the audience, it reflects a human need for connection and belonging, and it reminds its audience of how powerful an attachment can be in the joy and loss throughout the story. The last one we have is the healer. These are the ones that are kind of sturdy like the anchor. They represent compassion wrapped in structure. They offer advice, knowledge, order, or care systems rather than pure emotion and reassurance. Their comfort comes from being in control of the chaos, not being the one who causes it or being a part of. They're the ones that are controlling it. Oftentimes, they will hide their personal feelings over professionalism. So these can be like the doctors, the nurses, even sometimes the parents. The conflict with them often arises when they have to choose between rules and empathy, and most of the times the doctors choose rules. We admire the healer's strength, but we ache for their restraint. They have so much potential, and they have so much chance to do the right thing or do what the main character wants, but they can't and they won't. And it reminds us that caring deeply can sometimes mean letting go, and that boundaries don't always protect the heart or the other person. Archetypes are the heartbeat of storytelling, and it's the familiar patterns of humanity that helps us understand a character before they can even speak. Each one carries a promise of growth, loss, or challenge, or even of redemption. Though we think each character has to be one archetype, oftentimes they're not only one thing. They can change midway through the story. They can stay the same throughout, but have a mix of both. No one character is ever just one thing, just like how we aren't. These archetypes just give us a foundation in the first outline before the story fills them in with the rest of the story. So I'll be bringing up these archetypes a lot in the story, trying to figure out what archetype each character would go to, or if it's multiple. So I just wanted to explain a little bit of this, just in case you were confused in the first video. I apologize for not doing this sooner. In my book, I also have roles, but a lot of them are the same, so I'm not going to really go over that too much. That's going to wrap it up for today's video. I hope you enjoyed learning about the archetypes. I might do more videos like this just with information stuff, so let me know if you want to see more of that. I have my little book here filled with my notes, and for now I will see you in the next video. Bye!